Hello once again, and welcome back to my Character Crusade Unbound Season 2 Let's Play featuring Alusell, the Alteration Swordsman. Uh, right off the bat, you can tell that Alusell has made a few changes. He's got some new duds, but I kind of want to talk about that later. Um, this is a pretty exciting episode. It's been a while since I've been able to record, but I'm happy to be back in Skyrim. Especially considering that the Character Crusade guys have released the next part of their Ghosts of Yore story. And I posted the link for both Part 1 and Part 2 of those sort of audiobook segments in the description of this video. I highly encourage you to check those out if you're at all into Skyrim roleplay. They're very well done, they're very well written, and very well voice acted. But yeah, last week they released part 2 of that story, and for Unbound Season 2, the whole point is to take what we see fit out of those stories and inject them into our own. So it's very exciting getting story segments from them, because then I can use that to help direct my own story. So yeah, the links to those are posted in the description below if you're interested. And in order to make sense of some of Alusell's motivations and reasons why he's doing certain things and reacting certain ways, you're probably going to need to listen to those as background. They're pretty short. They're around 10 to 15 minutes each. And they're enjoyable, so I don't think you'll regret listening to them. But okay, that's that, and I'll be walking through some of that a little bit later. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about what we did last time and what got us up to this point. So in the last episode, Alusell cleared out in the last couple episodes, Alusell cleared out Fulgenther, and he cleared out Dead Men's Respite. And Fulgenther, he was following a lead on the Halldir saga. He thought that maybe the Halldir sons had some connection with Halldir, who visited him outside of Falkreath down here on the first few episodes. And kind of bestowed a curse upon him. So yeah, nice guy, that Halldir. He thought that there might be a connection between Halldir and the Halldir saga here. This was the second Halldir that he faced, Mikrul, and he didn't really find any connections yet. He's starting to lean away from the Halldirs as a possibility of having anything to do with his current curse and his current situation, and Halldir's little story that he keeps bestowing upon us. So after that, he went down to Dead Men's Respite, which he went to pick up the Olaf. What was it called? Olaf's verse. It was kind of a poetic journal that was lost to the bards regarding Olaf's treachery, and Viarmo, the headmaster of the Bards College, needed that verse to convince Alusell to I'm searching for words here. To continue the tradition of the Burning of King Olaf, which is kind of, I'm guessing, a yearly celebration that they do in Solitude, to kind of remind everybody the treachery of King Olaf. Alusell didn't want to do it because of because of her husband, the High King that just got killed. She thought it was a little insensitive, but after recovering the verse, and Viarmo and I kind of filling in the blanks because some of it was lost, she agreed that the burning of King Olaf was a ceremony that did in fact need to continue. Now, during the course of recovering this verse, Alusell came across the ghost of a bard named Svaknir. And Svaknir kind of recruited Alusell to help him bust through, well, I'm sorry, not bust through, but to defeat a risen King Olaf in sort of Draugr form that was not unlike the form Halldir took when we defeated him in the first episode or two. There was a magical field blocking them, something that Svaknir was able to disable somehow. And inside was a large number of Draugr, which were King Olaf's minions, and then a very fierce battle with Olaf himself. That magical field was very reminiscent to some of the magic that he felt in Halldir's cairn. So Alusell is fairly certain now that Halldir was connected with Olaf or Svaknir in some way, or both. He just doesn't know how all those pieces fit together. It seems to him that that magical field that was keeping them out of Olaf's tomb was more of a benevolent force, so he is thinking that Svaknir somehow planted that field there to keep people out of Olaf's tomb, or to keep Olaf inside of his tomb. The other possibility is that Olaf created the field to keep Svaknir out, and Svaknir needed a worthy adventure to join him in taking that field down. But Svaknir seemed like he was able to just bust through it on his own. So we don't know. All we know is that Svaknir and Olaf were very much at odds, and for some reason Solitude and the Bard's College have a deep hatred for Olaf, and in fact claimed that his capture of the dragon Numenex was all a farce. Right now Alusell is leaning towards Svaknir being the good guy and Olaf being the bad guy, but we all know that in reality such black and white terms rarely exist, so I'm kind of eager to explore that a little bit. But where we're left now is that we've actually returned the verse to Viarmo. Viarmo was able to use the verse to convince Elisif to let us continue with the tradition of the burning of King Olaf. So that's what we're about to do now. Gonna go attend that. Oh yeah, before we go, let's go ahead and talk about the robes here. These are the Avalak robes. I think they come from the Witcher series, but I've never played the series. Sorry, I plan on doing it at some point, but yeah, Bethesda games just draw me in and hold me down and kind of keep me from exploring other games. So Bethesda is a cruel mistress sometimes. But yeah, I thought that they just kind of fit this character a little bit. They're unarmored. They look really cool. They're kind of loose and flowy, but fitted in some parts, so I think that would really help Alusell out with his swordsmanship and his magic. I do have a little bit of a backstory about all this stuff. He actually spent almost an entire day inside the clothing shop with Terry and Dari, the really grumpy elf sisters in the clothing shop here. Having them kind of build this garment to spec, and it got really angsty and really heated. Raya got really defensive of Alusell, and almost, well, it looked like she wanted to kill the elf sisters, but Alusell dismissed her, and was able to keep a cool head through the whole thing, and ended up getting a very, very nice and actually practical garment out of it that really suits his character, in my opinion, at least. Also, I've leveled up a couple times as well, and I spent a perk on this energy shield here, which requires that I wear no armor and robes. So that's where the robes come in. This is going to reduce incoming physical and elemental damage by 35%, gradually diminishing. I'm actually eager to see how this plays out because I have the Vancian Magic perk. I don't really have I have magic, I just don't use it. So that's going to be interesting. I'm also not sure if the robes added by the Divine Elegance mod, which is where these robes come from, are actually compatible with that perk. So that I will have to find out. If I have to go into the creation kit and set a flag on these robes or something, I think I can do that. But I haven't fought any mages yet. So that should help with survivability. The other perk that I took was the Merrick Smithing perk, and I chose Dwarven for that. Just because I think that the whole Dwarven archetype, being that they're masters of logic and reason, they kind of it kind of fits with Alusell's whole cold, logical demeanor more so than maybe the elven stuff does. So yeah, there's that. We also have a new Dwarven katana. It's this guy here. I like how the sword is actually straight. It's not a curved blade like a lot of the katanas are. I feel like that's just a little more no nonsense, which fits with Alusell, who is also no nonsense. So our old steel katana was doing 25 damage. Now we're doing 30 damage with the Dwarven one. So that's a nice little boost to our damage output there. And honestly, I think I took one more perk at some point, but I don't remember what it was. It's been too long since I played. I'm only playing this now when I have a chance to record, and I haven't had a chance to record since last Tuesday, I believe. So yeah, I don't remember. Sorry. So yeah, that's where Alusell is now, and we've already discussed where he is going currently. So let's go check out this little celebration here. Oh, beautiful night for a party. Also a perfect night to set out your meat pies and sweet rolls. Amazing. Oh, the Solitude folks are down to party, aren't they? Weather like this, they're still coming out.
Welcome, people of Solitude. We of the Bards College are pleased to be here to celebrate the burning of King Olaf.
It's funny, that looks just like King Olaf.
Would not have been possible
not really.
Without the dedication and hard work of our latest applicant. With the lighting of the effigy,
Alusell doesn't really know how to handle all the applause.
he becomes a full-fledged member of the Bards College. Please welcome our newest bard. Meat pies! Try one for free, come back for more. Get your meat pies. How are your students coming along?
Now, having everybody applaud and kind of adore Alusell here.
Try not to play favorites.
Doesn't really do much for him. There might be a small spark of pride that will never swell beyond a spark. Way deep down inside, but for the most part he's just going to completely dismiss all of this. So I'm a bard now?
Yes, congratulations. You are now a full-fledged member of the Bard's College. Due to your adventurous nature, several of the college professors have some things they wish you to do. What's more, Alusell has declared the Burning of King Olaf should become a weekly event. And finally, there's the matter of the patronage that Alusell wanted me to give you.
Okay, well, money is always appreciated, even if applause and adoration isn't. So, yeah, Alusell is really kind of disconnected with people in general because he's usually very inwardly focused, which is the source of his strength. But he also is human. Like I said, there was that small spark of pride in there. On some very, very deep level, he did enjoy all of the attention there, but his head is actually very much focused on something else. This whole time of this lighting of the effigy here, he was feeling a very familiar feeling, and that familiar feeling is that of being pulled back to Halldir's cairn after he defeated him the first time. This time he's not feeling pulled back all the way to Falkreath, to Halldir's cairn, but rather he's being pulled back to the basement of the Bard's College somewhere. Which terrifies Alusell a little bit, but he's also eager to see what's waiting for him down there. Of course, whatever's pulling him is pulling him to the darkest, most desolate place of the entire college. Uh-oh. What's this down here? It's Halldir. The goosebumps are really popping up on Alusell's flesh now. The first meeting with Halldir, he wasn't sure if it was real or in his head. It doesn't seem like Raya sees him again. Yet he feels completely sane and completely... he has all his faculties, so he's thinking that this is real. So here's Halldir again, whose appearance can mean one of two things. One, that... well, actually, it means one thing. That Halldir has something else to tell Alusell. And that could be because he's on the right track with this whole Svaknir and Olaf thing, or it could be that he's just on the wrong track. But he's been on the wrong track for most of this series, so I don't know what would possess Halldir to reappear now. So I'm gonna say that Alusell is on the right track with the Svaknir Olaf thing, and Halldir is here to kind of give him the next piece of the puzzle to work on. And this next piece of the puzzle comes in the form of Character Crusade's Ghosts of Yore story segment. Part 2, which is linked to below. So I would highly encourage you to pause this now, go listen to that story segment, and then come back. Okay, so as a brief summary of what happened in that story segment, Halldir seems to be telling a disjointed sort of story on two different threads. One of them seems to be an injured person in an inn. This could be Halldir, this could be Svaknir. Probably not Olaf, because I just don't see a future or current king being nursed back to health in an inn. So if that's anybody, that's either Halldir here or it's Fafnir. The second part of the story was a brutal... it seemed like an infiltration of some kind of warlord's camp. I'm more likely to believe that the perspective of the warlord kind of fits with Halldir here. I'm tending to lean toward Halldir being the person in that person in this story, if not both. So that part of the story found probably Halldir looking through his ranks as like a high-ranking captain of some army. Had sort of a lighthearted encounter with one of his subordinates. His subordinate tells him this kind of heartbreaking story of being just married, but still coming to fight for Skyrim. And pretty much everybody in the camp gets kind of destroyed by the attackers that come through there and just start this extremely bloody battle. It was pretty sad. I encourage you to go read it, or I'm sorry, not read it, but listen to it. And with that next story segment, Halldir disappears. Leaving Alusell, no more sure of his path than he was before. He's got a little more information. He doesn't know why Halldir doesn't just pop up and tell him what he needs to know, but really Halldir probably has his reasons. His manifestations in Mundus, in this world, or even this plane, probably take a lot out of him. So he's probably got a limited amount of energy with which to give Alusell the most pertinent information that he can. And for some reason, these little pieces of story are the most important pieces of information that he can convey to Alusell. We shall see how that pans out. So at this point, well, off-screen, I did a bunch of research. I read a bunch of the books in the Bard's College on the Wolf Queen, which we were considering taking this on. I did read a bunch of books on the Wolf Queen, and it turns out that there's probably little to no connection with her and Olaf, or Halldir for that matter. Potema came along hundreds and hundreds of years after Olaf and likely Halldir were doing their thing. She's fairly contemporary as far as Skyrim history goes. Now, when you're dealing with necromancers and necromancy in general, the timelines don't really mean as much because people can come back to life, or necromancers can otherwise communicate with dead entities. So that's still a possibility, but with Halldir appearing now, with the feeling that he got from the magical field at Dead Men's Respite around Olaf's tomb, he's really thinking that Potema and this wolf skull thing don't really have much to do with his current stuff. So we may come back to that at some point, but for now, it's not a priority. So, where are we left? With that new story segment, I don't think they're in Roldan anymore, but I also don't think that they mentioned exactly where that new battle took place. I'll have to go back and re-listen to the audio on that a couple times. But in the first episode, they were definitely in Roldan. So I think visiting Old Roldan Inn over here on our map is going to be a priority for Alusell. He's really He's less concerned about finding information on Halldir now that he's kind of come to terms with maybe he's not crazy and that this ghost is real. And he's not sensing any kind of belligerence from Halldir now. It feels like a benevolent aura. So now he's less concerned about gathering information on him and that timeline and any connections there, and more concerned about trying to figure out what Halldir wants him to do. What he wants Alusell to learn and what he wants him to experience. So he's following clues more from Halldir's side of things than from history. So that kind of narrows our focus down. So we're definitely going to be visiting Old Hroldon Inn over here, and I'm guessing this whole area over here is what Hroldon used to be, or what used to be Hroldon is now. But also, and this kind of goes back to the history thing, but it's much more salient at this point, much more important. And that was the old book that we read from the College of Winterhold, called Olaf and the Dragon, I believe, where they talk about the Battle of Olaf and Numenex on Mount Anthor, which is right around here, I believe, right at this little T section of this path. So we're also going to make it a priority to go visit that too. And that'll actually give us an opportunity to revisit the college, and maybe update our alteration spells a bit with Tolfdir. I think he's probably out of Sarthal by now, and kind of available for us to train with him and to buy spells. So yeah, I think that is where we're heading. We're gonna come down this road through Dragon's Bridge, and then head into the Reach. Maybe visit Markarth on our way to Old Hroldon Inn, and just explore the area, see what people have to say about it, see if we can find any old ruins or anything down here, and just kind of try to get the lay of the land and what the history is of this place over here. Halldir definitely wants us to come down here, or at least he alluded to it in his stories. That's one of the few concrete pieces of information that he did give us, so we're going to follow up on that now. So we're going to spend some time over here in the Reach area, especially around the inn. And then when we're done there, we'll head back up toward the college and check out the Mount Anthor region. Now, all that being said, we can take a lot of the mystery out of this, at least in Alusell's perspective through this story, by talking to Olaf One-Eye himself. And there is one way to do that in-game, but it involves going through the main quest line. And I'm not sure I'm ready to tackle that with Alusell just now. I kind of want to see where the rest of the story leads, but following up on rumors of dragons and doing the whole main quest line thing kind of goes hand in hand with the whole dragon priest situation with Vokun and Hevnarak, which figure heavily in our curse. So that's another option. I just got to wrap my head around how to fit that into Alusell's story, and whether or not that's going to narrow us down too much in the grand scheme of things to be able to stay flexible for the Ghosts of Yore story segments. So yeah, that's kind of the roadmap of where we're at going forward. Real quick before I leave, sorry there was not much action. This was largely a story-driven episode. I had a question on, I don't know if it was my last episode, but it might have been one of the earlier ones, asking how I'm reconciling Alusell using magic when Redguard culture in general shuns magic. And I think I have 3 points that I want to make about that. Um, the first one being that Alusell was an outcast in Hammerfell. He was orphaned at a young age. He was taken in by a shopkeeper who was not very attentive at all. He didn't love Alusell. He took well enough care of him. But mostly he just used Alusell as cheap labor to help him run the shop and run errands for him. There was no love there. There was no closeness. There was no connection. And so because of that, Alusell internalized a lot of stuff. He kind of lived in his own world. He lived a lot in his own head. He spent a lot of time in his own head. And even running errands for his foster father and everything. He never made connections with anybody else either. So he doesn't really feel part of the whole Redguard culture, and so he wouldn't really have the same distrust of magic that all the rest of the Redguards in Hammerfell do. Also, the way Alusell uses magic and the way it manifests from him is not traditional. It's kind of why I took the Vancian magic perk, just to kind of differentiate his magic use from everybody else's in this game. His use of magic, it's not really magic in the traditional form. It's more a manifestation of his internal strength, his internal energy, through meditation and focus. So instead of bending Aetherius around him like a traditional mage would, I guess, and channeling the concept of magicka, his magicka is more of like focus. And once he expends too much of himself, then he has to rest, which ties in nicely with Vancian magic. So yeah, it's not really magic. Even if he were, if he did feel a connection with Redguard culture and felt like he needed to shun magic, he doesn't really see this as magic. It's just his own internal energy that he is focusing into runes on the ground, flames through his hands, and things like making his body more resistant to damage. The third point I wanted to make there was... Okay, what was the third point? I know there was a third point. What was it? We had the meditation thing. We had the disconnection from Redguard society. I don't remember. There was a third point there. I can't remember what it was. But I think those 2 points are good enough. Man, now I really... What was the third point? Yeah, I don't know. I completely lost it. I think I'm going to start hallucinating like Alusell, and I'm not going to think it's real. I think it's actually crazy. So yeah, we have Alusell's thoughts on magic. We have his disconnection from Redguard society, or actually society as a whole. He's getting along better with Raya, but he still hasn't really formed a connection with her. We have his interpretation of these Halldir visions that he's having. And we have a roadmap of what's to come. So I think that is a good place to end. So next episode, I don't know if we're gonna have a travel episode where we talk about stuff and everything, or if I'm just gonna meet y'all back at Old Hroldan Inn. We shall see. I probably won't get another chance to record for another week or so. But I look forward to that point and look forward to seeing y'all again. Until then, take care, and I will see you next time.